Welcome to This Explainer. Whenever we watch phenomenal athletes like Lionel Messi, it's easy to focus entirely on their physical agility. But do elite competitors really just rely on raw physical strength? Or do they possess an invisible, highly evolved cognitive superpower? Today, we're deconstructing the minds of elite sports stars to reveal that invisible advantage. Let's dive in. Have you ever wondered why a player like Messi seems almost impossible to stop? According to fascinating sports psychology research, opponents can't catch him because he makes sure they simply don't have enough time. And we're not just talking about his feet moving fast. This introduces a mind-bending concept. For the very best players on the planet, perceptual time might literally pass differently. The theory goes that if perceptual time slows down for an elite athlete, they're granted a wider bandwidth to grasp what's happening on the pitch. They're seeing the game in a completely different temporal dimension than the defender trying to stop them. To understand how this works, researchers use a clock-ticking analogy to explain subjective time dilation. Imagine taking a quick glance at the second hand of a ticking clock. Very often, that first tick you look at seems to pause momentarily. It feels longer than the ticks that follow, even though every tick lasts exactly 1 second. Now, imagine an athlete like Messi experiences every second on the field like that stretched, paused first tick. This stretched perceptual second allows their sensory systems to run faster. They pack far more computation and analysis into the same window of objective time. And this isn't just an abstract idea. A 2019 study showed that elite footballers process information twice as fast as the general population. Twice as fast. This heightened processing speed lets them essentially freeze time in high-pressure moments, analyzing their surroundings and making game-changing decisions in mere milliseconds. When a single second can mean the difference between lifting a World Cup trophy and a devastating loss, this doubled processing speed is the ultimate invisible advantage. Here's a great example of how high-speed processing translates directly to visual perception on the field. In one experiment, researchers showed cricket players footage of a fast bowler pausing the video at various points during the throw. Novices and intermediate players needed to see almost the entire throwing motion just to guess where the ball was headed. But the elite experts could predict the trajectory of a ball moving up to 160 kilometers per hour much earlier and with far greater accuracy. Why? Because they didn't even need to see the ball leave the hand. They only needed to see the bowler's arm and wrist angle. They used this hyper-perception of tiny postural cues to essentially read the future long before the ball arrives. So how do they know what a specific wrist angle means so instantly? It comes down to something called procedural memory and a brain mechanism known as chunking. When a novice looks at a basketball court or a soccer pitch, they see 9 or more separate players running in random directions. It's overwhelming, but an expert's brain doesn't see individuals. It instantly chunks that chaotic data into one recognizable pattern of play. Because of years of intense practice, their brain has built a massive store of procedural memories. The moment they recognize a pattern, their brain automatically retrieves what happens next in that scenario. They predict the outcome without even consciously thinking about it. To take this anticipatory ability even further, let's look at the biological hardware behind it: mirror neurons. A mirror neuron is a brain cell that fires when you perform an action, but it also fires when you simply watch someone else perform that same action. Your brain runs a virtual simulation of the movement it observes, mapping someone else's actions directly onto your own nervous system. The discovery of mirror neurons is a fascinating story. Italian scientists were studying the brains of macaque monkeys with electrodes hooked up to the motor cortex to see what fired when a monkey grabbed a peanut. One day, a scientist in the lab casually reached for a peanut themselves. The monkey's brain lit up exactly the same way, even though the monkey was sitting perfectly still. As far as the monkey's brain was concerned, watching someone grab a peanut was neurologically identical to doing it themselves. Human brains mirror what they see in the exact same way. Here's what's especially interesting. Researchers showed videos of basketball free throws to non-experts, expert observers like coaches, and elite professional players. Both the coaches and the players showed high brain excitability while watching the shots, but the expert players' brains didn't just light up generally. They mirrored the exact hand muscle movements of the player on screen. Because they've physically taken that shot thousands of times, their brain builds a forward model of the movement, letting them predict whether the shot will miss or go in just by watching the release. Which brings us to the climax of our story. The efficiency paradox. Why do the best brains actually do less? A study investigating what's known as the Neymar Effect looked directly at the brain of the Brazilian soccer star. By measuring a marker called 2DG uptake, which tracks metabolic activity in the brain's motor cortex, researchers found something surprising. You'd think an elite brain processing that much data would practically overheat. But when a novice performs a motor task, their metabolic activity is sky high. When an elite expert like Neymar performs complex foot motor control skills, the metabolic activity in his brain is significantly lower. Over years of repetitive training, his brain has become remarkably efficient. Why is lower metabolic activity such a huge advantage? A novice's brain operates under a high cognitive load. It has to consciously analyze every detail, which takes time and creates stress and anxiety. If you're logically weighing the pros and cons of a pass, it's already too late. The expert's brain reduces its overall activity, relying on automatic, unconscious responses. This makes the elite athlete nearly immune to what's often called paralysis by analysis. By doing less raw work, the brain frees up capacity for the big picture, creativity, emotional control, and instant adaptation under pressure. But what happens when an athlete lacks the standard physical gifts? Take Messi again. As a kid, he was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency. Today, he stands at 170 centimeters, often making him one of the shortest players on the pitch. For comparison, the average height of a European World Cup squad is 183 centimeters. That's a massive physical gap on the world stage. So here's the crucial point. Psychological adaptations like subjective time dilation, hyperperception, and rapid pattern recognition likely developed and sharpened in players like Messi as a survival mechanism, compensating for being significantly smaller than the competition. Faster mental speed became the ultimate equalizer for slower physical growth. So how can you train your own anticipatory brain? This might sound like it only applies to elite athletes, but the truth is, we rely on these same mechanisms in everyday life. Think about trying to swat a fast-moving fly. You have to predict exactly where it will be a fraction of a second from now, from avoiding a collision on a crowded sidewalk to timing your run for a departing train. We're constantly engaged in the choreography of daily life. You can borrow a strategy from elite athletes who train under conditions tougher than an actual match. A popular method is disrupted visual training, stroboscopic lights, flashing lights in dark rooms, or eyewear that intermittently blocks vision. By giving the athlete only brief, fragmented snapshots of their environment, the brain is forced to work overtime to predict the missing pieces. Then, when they return to normal conditions, the game seems dramatically slower and their visual anticipation becomes far sharper. You can apply this yourself by deliberately adding safe layers of complexity or time pressure to your own daily tasks to challenge your brain's processing speed. So, we've seen that true elite performance isn't just about having the biggest muscles. It's about a brain that can stretch time, process information at double speed, effortlessly recognize complex patterns, and read the intentions of others through mirror neurons. By operating with incredible metabolic efficiency, these athletes master the chaotic choreography of their sport. And here's the thing. You possess that exact same cognitive machinery. So as you go about your day, here's a final thought to leave you with. How will you use your working memory and anticipation to master the choreography of your own life today?